Smash that like button, y'all. Double tap that screen. Smash that like button and definitely double tap that screen. We had an interesting live stream this morning now, didn't we? I know they're going to be back in here. Bunch of weirdos and shit. Smash that like button when y'all come inside the live stream. As you come in, as you leave, hit the like button. Because a lot of people feel it's going to get hurt. Smash that like button when y'all get into the live. Double tap that screen. Subscribe to the channel, man. If you like to hear, debates in real time, you like to hear bullshit challenged, and you like to see people not have any type of substance or info, facts, this is the place. This is the place. It goes down right here. We got people who claim everything is propaganda even when there's proof. And then we got people who, I don't even want to use the word spew, because that's the word they use. People like to challenge facts with no facts. Shout out to them. Double tap that screen when you get into the live stream, y'all. Y'all know what it is. Yeah, we are moving. Shit, we'll be at 2,000 subscribers. We'll probably be at 500 by the end of the day. We're at 300 or 1,300 right now. We'll be at 1,500 by the end of the day. Smash that like button and let's get it going. Look like there's a lot going on. And Katie Fang, shout out to her, is behind a lot of the shit that's going on in the courts. She's behind a lot of it. And with that being said, let's tap in.
Guys, Temu is absolutely insane this time. The DJI Mini 5 Pro is at a huge discount right now. This is DJI's first mini drone.
Do you know the name Russell Vogt? Well, you should. He heads up the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB. His technical title, I think, is Director of the Office of Management and Budget. And Russell Vogt is tantamount to a combination of a Rasputin and a Grim Reaper. And also Voldemort. I kind of feel like he's an amalgamation of all of those things. And I don't say this in jest. He's the most powerful man right now in DC, only because convicted felon Donald Trump has given him the power to do this. They call him the shadow president. And the reason why is the Office of Management and Budget is the place that controls the money flow to be able to go to all of these federal agencies and departments. And Russell Vogt, being the lackey that he is, does everything that Donald Trump tells him to do, including, according to media reports and now members of Congress, illegally withholding funds to states simply because they are, quote, blue, they lean heavily Democratic, or they supported Kamala Harris in the 2024 election. If it sounds wrong, you're right. If it sounds illegal, you're right. And if it sounds like somebody should get off their ass and do something about it, Congresswoman Sidney Kamlager-Dove, she heard you. Today, she's
Underboss was good.
Introduced these articles of impeachment. And this resolution makes it clear that Russell Thurlow, that's his middle name, Vogt, the director of the Office of Management and Budget, should be impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors, and that the following articles of impeachment be exhibited to the Senate. Article 1, abuse of power through improper impoundment of congressionally appropriated funds. And then Article 2, failure to faithfully execute the laws of the United States. This, my friends, this is actually doing something. This is more than just complaining. This is more than just being a sympathetic ear to your constituents. This is actually doing something. So, of course, I had to invite Congresswoman Cam Lager-Dove to Katie Fang News so we can talk about this breaking news. Take a listen. Joining me now is Congresswoman Sydney Cam Lager-Dove from the great state of California, the person who is responsible for these articles of impeachment. Congresswoman, thanks for joining me. It's always so good to see you.
It is always good to see you and to talk to you.
Foundation here. Let's set the table for people to understand. There's a lawsuit that's been brought by the University of California researchers challenging cancellation of federal grants. And during the course of that litigation, footnote, which is why I'm always cheering on good lawsuits, because they really can dislodge the truth. So let's be clear here. You know, it's not all is lost in our judiciary, in our judicial system yet. During the course of that litigation, the administration had to admit that the Energy Department had a list of 2,300 financial assistance awards. And that of those 2,300, they had identified 624 grants to either be terminated or canceled. And of those 624 grants, 284 were marked specifically for termination because of the following reasons. The state had awarded its electoral votes to Kamala Harris in the 2024 election and or had two Democratic caucusing senators. And the amount of money that was at issue here was pretty wild. It was more than 7.5 billion with a B dollars in Biden era federal grants for clean energy projects. I'm talking things that would reduce your bills as a homeowner, as a taxpayer, good things that would help Americans. And the Trump administration said, we're going to target you and we're going to cherry pick you to cancel your grants. Is that what was going on here?
Amen, Queen. You brought the CVS list of receipts with that breakdown. Yes, there were $7.5 billion in clean green energy projects from the Biden era. President Trump, salty that people voted for Kamala Harris and wanting to seek retribution against states that either have Democratic leadership or who voted for Kamala Harris, instructed his people to break the law. Russell Vogt, one of those people, over Office of Budget and Management and Budget, sent a letter saying, we are going to pause on sending this money out to these blue states because we are the petty Trump administration. And that is breaking the law because the law says only Congress is allowed to appropriate dollars. And if you, executive branch, don't like something, too bad. You have to go back to Congress and ask Congress to reappropriate or to pause or to pass a different kind of law to give money in a different way. And this administration didn't do this. He told Russell Vogt, someone told Russell Vogt, maybe he dreamt of it himself, that he was going to not send money to Democratic states. And the problem is when the lawsuit came and the people showed up to talk to the judge, they said, we did it because we're partisan, because it's political, because we're petty. And the judge said, you can't do that. That is breaking the law. So we are tired of this. And that is why we have moved to introduce articles of impeachment against Russell Vogt.
Yeah, and in the intro to this conversation with you, Congresswoman, I walked through the two articles, the first one being number one, sorry, I'm getting there, abuse of power through improper impoundment of congressionally appropriated funds, and Article 2, failure to faithfully execute the laws of the United States. I will exercise personal petty privilege for a second. I didn't realize his middle name was Thurlow, by the way. Russell Thurlow Vogt. Yes, I didn't know. I learned something more today because of your articles of impeachment. But it's fascinating to me because I feel like, well, first of all, I also had to remind people, you know, Russell Vogt is the architect of Project 2025. this is a very big deal because I actually said my description of him was he's a combination of Rasputin and also the Grim Reaper and a little Voldemort. Like, he whose name shall not be said. I kind of feel like he's he's an amalgamation of all three of those. The terrifying thing about Russell Vogt is that he's not only a yes man to Donald Trump, but he's the yes man who controls the spigot for federal funds for all of these federal agencies, et cetera. So talk about why it's so important to introduce these articles of impeachment for somebody like Russell Vogt.
So I too call him Voldemort. Because
okay.
I was saying that last
Mind meld.
Yes,
Mind meld here. Yes.
Because it is, he who shall not be named. And most people are thinking about Donald Trump and some of the more well-known cabinet secretaries. But someone like Russell Vogt is flying under the radar.
Yep.
An architect of Project 2025, which delineated all of the ways to weaponize the federal government and take from the American people. And he has come into this position, and he controls the spigot. And what he fails, or what he is, this is a dereliction of duty because he knows what his job is, and he is deciding to not obey the law. He is deciding who gets money and who he is. He is also the person who terminated thousands of federal workers. He is also the person who got rid of USAID. He is also the person who defunded the Consumer Finance Bureau. So he is a bad hombre. And we have to introduce these articles so that we can talk about what he has done and how he has broken the law, so that we can get ready for when we win in November to move forward with these articles of impeachment. The American people need to know what is in the Constitution and how it is being brutalized, cannibalized, weaponized, not just by this president, but the reapers that are working for him.
You had a great conversation with my friend and colleague, Scott McFarland, earlier. And I watch all the stuff you do, SKD, Sydney Cam Lagerdev. And I loved your answer to one of the questions that Scott posed to you, because he said, look, at this point, the Democrats are in the minority at this point. Okay. It'll change in November. And he said, kind of why? Like, what's the point of doing this? And your answer, and I'm going to paraphrase and then let you, fix my paraphrasing. Your answer was, even when you're in the minority, just on these numbers, right? Sometimes you have to stake that flag. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you have to actually stake that flag on the principles of what is right. And then when you do have that majority, when you do have control of Congress, then you can really kind of, clamp down, right? And so, again, fix my paraphrase in this, but I did like that question from Scott, because I too hear from the naysayers sometimes, right? I hear from the people that are negative Nellies and maybe not intentionally mean about it, but they're like, what's the point? Like, nothing's going to be done. But when you do something like this, why is it important, even if the Democrats are in the minority right now?
I mean, if you're not moving, you're dying. And that's true for anything, in any kind of relationship that you're in any kind of job that you are in.
Amen.
You may feel under duress, but every single day you're getting up and you're saying, I'm going to have a different kind of conversation with my boss. I'm going to do things a little different with my partner because I have to keep moving forward. It is the same in politics and in elected office. We are planting the flag. We are telling the administration and the American people that we have not forgotten what these people are doing and that we are going to come for them. So we are staking a claim and saying, hey, breaking the law is wrong. And you might think that you have the cover or the protection of this administration, but only for this moment and not after November. This also gives us an opportunity to tell the story to the American people about what they care about and how he is abusing, disregarding, dismantling what they care about. And it is also a reminder, especially as we move into 27 and 28, what we should not want to tolerate from any other future administration. We are using all of the quivers, in our toolbox, right? We have used discharge petitions. We have used our bully pulpit. We have used committee hearings, and people say, "Oh, why do this? Well, what's it going to do?" Well, we are posturing for the American people and letting them know that we are still hearing them, and we are hearing their anger, and we are figuring out ways to translate it in the work that we do. And we are letting this administration letting them know that we're going to come for them. But you can't just walk all over us. Like, Congress is still relevant. And these articles of impeachment show that we know that. And we have an obligation to remind the American people that Congress is still relevant.
I'm glad you bring up the discharge petitions, because there have been moments of rare bipartisan agreement on some discharge petitions, even as recently dealing with, and it wasn't necessarily in a discharge petition state, but even with regards to this illegal war of choice against Iran, right? We see the peeling off of some Republican support to,
Twice.
what is it? Yeah, exactly. And so talk about then, by natural extension, Congresswoman, why you file or you introduce these articles of impeachment, why then we need to deliver the House and the Senate in November, because that's where you actually get the bang for the buck, right? When you actually have that, why it's so important for people to turn out and vote for Democrats in November.
It will be an exercise in futility if we do not win. We are trying to get to 218. We must get to 218 so that we can have the gavels. And if we have the gavels, that means you reclaim the power of the purse. So are you upset that the one big ugly bill got passed, that SNAP benefits got cut, that Medicaid and Medicare got cut, that some ACA legislation and legislation to reduce your energy costs got cut? Well, you know what? If we are able to decide and design a new budget, then we can restore so many of those cuts. The other thing why it's so important that we have the gavel is it's the power of oversight. Very hard to investigate and subpoena and impeach somebody when you are in the minority. You might as well just be talking in the wind. And folks want accountability. They are enraged at the corruption and the collusion, and they want accountability. You cannot deliver accountability in the minority, not in the way that the people want right now. And lastly, we can say, we're not going to fund this war anymore. You want to keep people in? Well, it ain't going to be with any money that you're giving you, because we are the only entity that can authorize war, and we are the only entity that can fund it. And so those are three big things that we can do when we win in November. But trust me, Jim Jordan, current chair of Judiciary, is not going to oversee any impeachment hearings for Russell Vogt.
Well, Jim can't even find his sport coat, so I'm surprised he would find the corruption there. So what is important is your articles of impeachment, Congresswoman Cam Lager-Dove, comes on the backdrop, against the backdrop of a proposal by Russell Vogt's Office of Management and Budget for a new rule that would allow political appointees to have unprecedented control over the $1 trillion per year that's provided by federal grants. There's a report in NBC News that says that this rule would ensure, according to Russell Vogt, that these federal grants align with Trump's priorities and to improve Trump's ability to have oversight over the money. Political appointees would screen federal grant applications to ensure that they do not, quote, promote anti-American values, end quote, and that they could terminate the grants that they saw as, quote, no longer in the federal government's interest. It's like judge, jury, and executioner when it comes to the ability for blue states, quote unquote, blue states, to be able to get federal grants. I just had the most fascinating and sobering and horribly depressing conversation with former Governor Jay Inslee from the state of Washington. And we were talking about how big oil has declared these unprecedented profits, right, from Q2 because of this illegal war with Iran. But we were talking about how simultaneously fossil fuels and oil and gas are causing our climate change and our climate problems. But this administration is also withholding money for disaster preparedness and disaster relief. It's not just clean energy. It's not like, hey, let's fix it moving forward. It's let's help you fix the problems. And when a state like California, we can't make assumptions anymore, can we? That states like California, which you would think would be protected or be okay, right? Because of your governor and your AG or whatever. We can't make those assumptions if rules like this get promulgated and somebody like Russell Vogt can turn off the spigot of federal aid for disasters, because California's been hit with a few.
So you've triggered me with all of the things that you
go winding you up and letting you go.
Okay. This is the state that has endured a number of wildfires and urban fires that have devastated so many parts of California in both red and in blue districts. Los Angeles still has not gotten its money from the Palisades fire and the Altadena fire. Okay. So I'm sorry, you're going to hold up, that kind of disaster relief because you don't like the fact that California is blue. And trust me, there are Republicans and Democrats in all of those areas that got burned up. Okay. That is why the Impoundment Control Act from 1974 says you cannot deliver money or disperse money in a partisan or political fashion because it is taxpayer dollars going to the taxpayers. Now, then you're going to talk about coming after states. Well, California has passed a lot of state laws to help us manage climate. Okay. And now you're going to say, I'm just going to usurp all of that work because I'm this vengeful, petty orange person that wants, to be king forever. And so I'm going to continue to poke this bear. I don't think so. And I will say there is so much R&D and innovative dollars that are coming from all kinds of grants that do create jobs and actually do create dollars that they are tampering with. And that is tampering with our future as a state, our ability to innovate as a state, and our ability to attract new talent. So it is not just hurting California, but ultimately it is hurting the country. You have so many issues. It's domestic, it's national security, there's some foreign policy up in there. And Donald Trump nor Russell Vogt care about any of that. And everyone should be up in arms. And I'm going to tell you something else. One of the reasons why Kristi Noem got the boot was because Republicans also showed up at that judiciary hearing and they were complaining about the fact that they have not been able to get their disaster relief funding. So you're going to be petty against both R's, but mostly D's, because, I don't know really why this man has such a fragile ego, but it is hurting everyone. Republicans, independents, and Democrats. But he is certainly, coming after us with a vengeance. So we have to plant our flag with legislation. We have to continue to take his crazy self to court. And we have to remind the American people that when he is doing this, he is also attacking their power. And I don't know about you, Katie, because you do not strike me as somebody who is willing to ever yield your power. And that is why we need folks coming out in November saying, I'm sorry, Orange Dude, you are not taking my power. I am reclaiming it back.
And there, thus concludes the sermon at the Church of Sidney Cam Lagerdove. I will pass the offering plate now. But in conclusion, this is why you filing these articles of impeachment. It's not performative. No. It's substantive. This is why when you do this, we have these conversations. And we remind people that it isn't a partisan issue, except they're being petty partisan about it, but it isn't partisan where it hurts. And that's the thing. And that is why when I have conversations with the great Rob Bonta, for example, the Attorney General from California, I always underscore that it's Democratic state attorneys general that are going to court, but they're fighting for Republicans and independents as well. It's not just Democrats that are the beneficiaries of this. And in fact, it's all Americans that are beneficiaries when people like you and others understand that the laws are supposed to be blind to party politics, and that's why we're supposed to abide by them. But Congresswoman Sidney Kamlager, I want to be you when I grow up. But I think I've already passed that window, so I'll just be contented to just be your colleague and friend. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Always good to be with you. You are my North Star.
Thank you. Katie Fang here. We launched the Katie Fang News Channel in partnership with the Midas Touch Network so we could bring you the latest in legal and political news. Straight, no chaser. So if you're a fellow truth teller, hit that subscribe button and share the word about this channel so we can build a high information America together. So as House Speaker Mike Johnson has announced here on that cesspool called X, in 100 days, the people of this country have a critical choice: common sense or crazy. The rest of it is stupidity and bullshit. And then I'll get to the end. It's a contrast for America, and the choice is yours. And look, it's a 44-second election ad for Mike Johnson. It's not worth playing. As you can see right now, it shows convicted felon Donald Trump with that maxi pad, the miracle maxi pad on his ear. And it also shows, most importantly, Trump surrounded by sycophantic Republicans celebrating the signing into law of the big bullshit bill last July of 2025. And the reason why I am actually agreeing with just the 2 sentences from Mike Johnson's Twitter post is he's right. In 100 days, in the November midterms, as they are called, this country has a choice between common sense or crazy. And yet Mike's got the parties all wrong. Because the crazy party are the MAGA Republicans, and the common sense party are the Democrats. And that is why when you hear that there is very strong campaign messaging from the Republicans of promising more of nothing, promising more insanity, promising more expensive life, and our children being sent overseas to die in illegal wars. That's the campaign messaging that's coming from the Republicans. Contrast that to, as Mike Johnson says, it's a contrast for America and the choice is yours. Contrast that to the messaging from the Democrats, fighting for an affordable America.
Honey, did you invite the minions over?
Well, you know how we talked about getting Wi-Fi from Xfinity?
Yeah.
I ordered it this morning. It was on.
Makes sense, right? I think the choice is a no-brainer. I couldn't possibly imagine why you, as an American, would vote for a Republican in November when there is no daylight between Republicans and convicted felon Donald Trump. One of the DCCC recruitment co-chairs is Congresswoman Lauren Underwood. And she is a spectacular, young, fighting voice for us in DC right now, doing incredible things and actually moving the needle in a bipartisan way on major legislation. But in her role as one of the co-chairs for recruitment, she is helping flip from red to blue at least 26 seats. And these are competitive races with spectacularly authentic and very good candidates that are Democrats. And I was excited to be able to speak to her about the common sense choice to jettison the crazy majority that we see not only in the Senate, but in the House. And we'll get to jettisoning and kicking out crazy in the Oval in just a couple of years, but if not sooner, maybe. But I thought it was important for us to understand the lay of the land. Where are we 100 days out from the November midterms? And what races should we be focusing on? How should we be helping? What should we be doing? Take a listen. Joining me now is the incredible Congresswoman Lauren Underwood, who represents Illinois' 14th. Congresswoman, it's so good to have you here at the Katie Fang News Channel. How are you doing?
Hi, Katie. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Look, you know, there's no shortage of things for us to talk about, but I really wanted to center the beginning of our conversation today on what November looks like. And I don't want to be myopic. I'm also looking at beyond November into 2028. But, one of my favorite sayings is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So let's talk about November. Give us a little bit of an update on the lay of the land from your perspective, from the DCCC, in terms of how those races look for November.
Well, we are now inside 100 days. And so this is the final sprint. On the congressional side, we rolled out our new message frame, Fighting for an Affordable America. And that just speaks to the heart of the issue at stake in this election. We have a Republican majority that's unfailingly loyal to Donald Trump, raising costs on working families and ignoring the high cost of healthcare, the high cost of gas and groceries and housing. And then they're just continuing to perpetuate the corruption that working people see every day, and they have rejected every time there has been a special election or an opportunity to make their voices heard at the ballot box. But we don't win elections on message alone, as you know. Candidate quality matters. And I am working with the DCCC this cycle as one of their Red to Blue co-chairs, and we have an amazing cohort of 26 candidates on Red to Blue. We're talking about fighters like Joanna Mendoza and Jamie Yeager. We're talking about Randy Villegas in California and Christina Bohannon in Iowa. We have these great folks who are battle tested. They're raising a lot of money. They reflect their districts, and they will win in November.
Congresswoman, and one of the things that I love to emphasize here at my channel is the individuality of these candidates, right? Like, look, we see a letter in front of their names and we understand that's a party affiliation, but I suspect that you, as well as others at the DCCC, have kind of picked up on the reality, which is voters have become incredibly discerning and they really care about the authenticity of who they are trying to send to Congress. To your point that you just said, framing it as fighting for an affordable America makes sense for regardless of what your party affiliation is. And so really, what is it about these specific candidates on the red to blue slate, I'll call it, that really are giving those siren songs for voters to pay attention to and want to support?
Well, we just look at the candidates themselves. So let's take Jamie Yeager in North Carolina. He's a farmer who has been, really touched by the experiences of his neighbors as they've been trying to recover from Hurricane Helene. He has a congressman, Chuck Edwards, who's been missing in action, completely failed his community in the height of a disaster, and then now is embroiled in an ethics scandal. You have someone who is authentically of his community, just trying to help folks make ends meet. You know what I mean? And then when I think about when folks like Jamie step forward and run for Congress, that's not necessarily what they have planned for their whole life, but that's what the circumstances require. Like, I'm a nurse and I didn't know that I was going to be running for Congress, but when our healthcare was threatened, I had to step forward, and here we are. That's the story that we're seeing in this group of candidates that are on the red to blue list.
And I'm glad that you brought yourself up as a great example, because your lived experience led you to co-found and co-chair the Black Maternal Health Caucus, right? Yeah. Which didn't happen before you came and brought your lived experience and what you've centered as a priority for you to the table, which is really what we want our electeds to do. We want them to go and be our voices in DC, but to also reflect things that are priorities for us. I think the timing is perfect for us to have this conversation because we've clocked pretty much a year since what I call the big bullshit bill was passed by convicted felon Donald Trump over the objections of Democrats and with the support of Republicans in the GOP party. And I just wanted to bring up some statistics because you can't ignore the numbers. Approximately 4.5 million people have lost their SNAP benefits, 1.5 million of them being children. When it comes to things like Medicaid, a lot of those mandatory work requirements don't kick in until January 1st of 2027. There's several other things that kick in courtesy of the Republicans after the November midterms. And so in terms of direct and immediate big number impact, we may not see it now, but we know that it's inevitably going to be looming across my gosh, I'm like brain farting, just later on. And then things like Medicaid, there's an estimate from the Congressional Budget Office, 10 million additional uninsured people by 2034. I mean, that deals with Medicaid as well as just affordable healthcare. Affordable healthcare was a big thing that you worked on before Congress. I mean, these are the things that we kind of we see them as like marquee headlines, right? And we like hammer them in the news and the media. And then if we don't keep on talking about them, I feel like people just get resigned to the fact that this is just kind of what it is, but it doesn't have to be the case.
That's right. So throughout my career, I have seen the importance of the American people having high quality, affordable healthcare. So when I saw my congressman celebrating taking healthcare away from the American people, I wouldn't stand for it. And so I jumped in and I ran for Congress, and then I got to work and I wrote a bill that became law that lowered the uninsured rate to the lowest levels in U.S. history. I wrote the law to extend the ACA tax credits that Donald Trump and the Republicans in charge have allowed to expire. And now we see millions of Americans seeing their healthcare premiums double, triple, quadruple, and it's driving up the uninsured rate. You talked about Medicaid. Well, even if the work requirements haven't gone into effect, guess what is happening? The closures. In my community, we're seeing unit closures, peds, right, ICU, mother baby, closing in advance of these Medicaid cuts going into effect. And don't get me started on what's happening in our rural communities. You know, the rural communities are seeing hospitals close, clinics close, and nursing home closures. And that is devastating. These communities can't survive without healthcare. And, you know, it's all because of Donald Trump and the Republicans in charge wanting to steal from the working class in order to give the billionaires these tax breaks. The American people know it. They don't like it. They have rejected the big ugly bill, and they will vote these guys out in November.
And that's what I wanted to ask you about. So I feel like most, if not all, Americans are feeling Trump policies one way or another. My mom and I literally just talking about it this morning, how the price of basic groceries, not even like extravagant ones, has really gone up, so much so that, you know, for those of us that have been privileged to not have to pay attention to those things, we're starting to pay attention. What is it that Democrats are doing other than having these conversations and amplifying them to the best of our abilities? What else are Democrats doing to make sure that perhaps the people in the red areas, maybe in the areas that are maybe even purple, that they understand what's at stake coming up in November?
Well, what's really interesting is that we don't have to bring up the issue first. Like, the cost of groceries is top of mind for the American voter. I mean, we're talking about meat. We're talking about produce. And that's if you're not getting sick because of this outbreak, by the way. But then also like pop, crackers, chips. I'm seeing chips for almost $10 a bag. It is crazy. And so people are outraged, and they understand it's because of the Trump tariffs and this war in Iran. You know, people understand when the costs started going up, and then when they went up directly like crazy. And at the end of the day, they understand that this is a war of choice, that there's no end in sight. The American people have already rejected forever wars and don't like to see their grocery costs, their gas costs go up as a result of this failed war that Donald Trump has embarked on.
And for those of you that are tuning in, watching, and listening that aren't from Illinois, pop is soda. So just in case you were wondering.
Let's not fight, Katie.
I'm like, are people going to know that she's talking about pop means soda? I don't know. Well, listen, some people put ketchup on their hot dogs. I mean, hello, right? So let's go. But anyway, you know, Congresswoman, for me too, I am a mother, and I am, you know, a sandwich generation, as I call it. I have an 11-year-old daughter who I tell anybody who listens is 11 going on 30, but that's a whole other conversation, you know, I could have. But then my mom just turned 84. And so I am juggling all of the concerns I have of raising a young woman, right? And then taking care of a mom who I won't use the adjective elderly to describe because you would never see me again. But, you know, there are very real concerns, though, about her Medicare, right? About her insurance coverage, about her ability to go into assisted living if necessary, right? I mean, there's all this stuff and just decent healthcare, basic decent healthcare. I mean, talk about why it's so important for members of Congress like you who are looking at things like seniors and their needs, but also juggling it with what our future are, like our children, like what they are having to deal with as well.
Well, it just means that concepts like Medicare and Social Security are not foreign or abstract. They're deeply personal to us. And we know what it means for a senior who lives on a fixed income, who needs to be able to stretch that Social Security payment to be able to afford their utilities. And a lot of folks no longer can do that. This affordability conversation is not something that is disconnected from our everyday lives. I'm having the conversation with my mother about, girl, you need to get off of Medicare Advantage. Okay. And like, you need to just move on because this is not going to be a long-term solution for you. And then for folks, your daughter might be getting to the age where maybe she can, look after herself for a bit of time, but this childcare situation, and it is unreasonable beyond a mortgage payment for too many families in this country. And the thing is, we have a solution. We know how to solve for this childcare affordability. We know how to grow this early childhood education workforce and how to support those professionals. The question is about political will and prioritization. And that's what you will see with the Democratic majority, is lifting up these issues that are most important to working families and prioritizing getting them done.
And that's the perfect segue to one of, I think, is the most important conversation topics always, which is Black maternal care, right? Because, I saw Todd Blanche, who, I have going after, but I saw Todd Blanche testify in front of Senate Judiciary, right? And I saw people like Ashley Moody and Josh Hawley spend a lot of their time of their allocated minutes asking about mifepristone and medication abortion. And I'm hearing them trying to extract a commitment from Todd Blanche, who was doing laps talking about how he's the greatest pro-life president in the history of the United States is, convicted felon Donald Trump, blah, 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 and how, everything has to be done this way, and these are the right policies, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't hear a single question, though, about making sure that existing laws are enforced to make sure that they're not having indiscriminate or even intentional impacts, right? Disproportionate impacts on Black women, on minorities. I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing, how do we do and prioritize what Donald Trump wants? And those are the types of questions I'm hearing from Republicans, either in the Senate or in the House.
I think that's true. They have not been quiet or shy about their quest to eliminate our reproductive freedom. And they had taken every opportunity to insert new barriers, new restrictions, more chaos and confusion as folks are trying to get healthcare. Listen, I'm from Illinois. We have been the destination state for reproductive healthcare. Folks are coming into Illinois to get the life-saving healthcare that they need. Yep. And we are happy to welcome them. However, at the same time that this Republican majority is embarking on an explicitly anti-abortion agenda, we are also having quiet conversations around tackling maternal mortality. And that's how we were able to pass, with unanimous bipartisan support off the floor of the House, the NIH Improve Act earlier this week, or last week, a week ago on Monday, that, would allow for the NIH to spend tens of millions of dollars every year to identify the root causes of preventable maternal death and scale up the solutions and interventions that are saving lives. We were able to do that with my MAGA colleagues saying nice things on the floor about the program. And so there's a duality here. In these red states, they have seen a dramatic increase in preventable maternal death as a result of the pandemic, the Dobbs decision, and these looming Medicaid cuts. And these guys who proclaim to be pro-life are deeply worried and disturbed about the increase in maternal death. Because guess what? It's not just the Black women who are dying. Well, and they're looking for solutions.
Well, yeah. And then you see like Kat Cammack from Florida, who sits there and says, I had this experience when I needed to get an abortion. It was hollering at Ron DeSantis, right? His office, right? I mean, and listen, reproductive freedom is a very big deal in terms of one of my priorities. And I always say Republican women get abortions too, number one. Yeah. And Republican women are on birth control too, right? I mean, it's just not a party thing. And when I see, though, these mortality rates it is not just startling. I feel like we're going in reverse. And I don't think the priorities reflect the priorities of this administration, and specifically Republicans in office. They don't necessarily as a whole reflect the way that Americans are thinking about privacy rights and about small government and about, Republicans being out of my doctor's offices and stuff. And I feel like it also deals with, now we have big government in our homes at our dining tables, right? Like controlling the prices of our food and controlling the price of our gas and taking our children, and they're dying in wars in places that were never supposed to happen. I mean, these are the things that I feel like we all kind of have to tie together as Democrats and have people understand that these aren't one-offs. These are not like outlier events. These are all of a part of a bigger scheme and plan by Trump and this administration. And that really, it's just kind of the dominoes falling into place from Project 2025.
Yes. However, I just want us to remember, Katie, that the average American does not view these things in a partisan lens, right? Like they don't contemplate the idea of being able to start a family in a partisan lens. They don't think about being able to survive childbirth or make it to your baby's first birthday in a partisan lens. They don't think about being able to afford childcare as Dems versus ours, or being able to afford eggs, or being able to afford gas. They don't think about it that way. They just think about, why is this so tough? And it should be a little bit easier.
So then how do we convert that then? So then how do we convert that into having them think about it through the partisan lens of it that Democrats will deliver for them?
Well, we present a choice. We have one party that doesn't want to talk about it. Donald Trump says he doesn't care. He loves the inflation. We have the Republican Party who has taken advantage of every opportunity to raise costs on working families. And then you have House Democrats who are fighting hard every day, who want to force the conversation, who want to lift up the stories of working families, who are working people ourselves running for office, and who are championing our communities and these issues to advance solutions that will save lives and save folks money. Like, that's what this is about. And I just think,
what up,
we
I'm
assume that hardworking mom who's
Getting
working
in.
1 or 2 jobs is sitting here thinking
give me
about,
a few minutes, I'll be right with y'all.
Team Red versus Team Blue. And that's the lens that they approach every question or decision point. I think that we're missing a chance to connect with our neighbors and our voters.
And I love that. That's incredibly grounding. And thank you for kind of that correction for me, because you're right. It doesn't have to always be partisan. It just has to be about the people. And who's going to best deliver for the people. I guess, Congresswoman, my final question for you is, where could people go to, how do we manage this? Like, where could people go to learn more about these red to blue candidates that they want to go learn more about their platforms, want to give them help, right? Want to make sure that they are contributing towards getting these people across the finish line and to succeed in November?
Well, officially, they can visit the DCCC's website, dccc.org/red2blue. But unofficially, y'all can tag along with me. I launched a Substack. It's called Big Democratic Victories, and I'm taking you along on our journey supporting our red to blue candidates, so that you can get to know them as I have. And I know that you all will be so impressed, and you'll be excited to donate. You'll be excited to make calls and texts and help support their victories, because we only have 99 days until this election. And this is an all hands on deck kind of environment. And Katie, I just got to tell you, I know a lot of folks were, kind of upset with Democrats talking about fight hard or do something. This is fighting hard. And this is doing something. And winning the election is how we get this done and save our country. And we need people to join us.
So what is the name of the Substack again?
Big Democratic Victories.
Alrighty. So what we'll do is we will also include a link to your Substack in the caption here. Congresswoman Lauren Underwood, it is always a pleasure to spend time with you. And I appreciate it's incredibly refreshing to have these conversations, especially with a fighter like you. When I say that we want fighters, it's not just to fight, right? It's to understand what are the things that are important to really stand our ground on, because I keep on telling people, this is the moment. The world's burning. This is the moment where we really have to say that we're going to be on the right side of history for this one. So I appreciate all the work you're doing to get that to happen for us. Thank you so much.
It's really good to see you.
Good to see you. Katie Fang here. We launched the Katie Fang News Channel in partnership with the Midas Touch Network so we could bring you the latest in legal and political news. Straight, no chaser. So if you're a fellow truth teller, hit that subscribe button and share the word about this channel so we can build a high information America together.
Want to get this damage machine for free? Use the code NEMESIS to claim the epic Akemptum.
Melania Trump has effectively disappeared. She's nowhere to be found. She hasn't been seen anywhere near or around the White House. This as Donald Trump continues to bring up his dark past and her dark past in ways that are deeply disturbing. I'll get to it in a moment. The last post from Melania Trump, July 30th, where she tried to take credit for facilitating a fifth Ukraine-Russia family reunification. She doesn't say the names of the people she's reunifying, but she claims she's reunified some Ukrainian and Russian families, which would look objectively be good if she actually did it. Who the heck knows? I don't know. But we do know that there are massive strikes by Russia in Ukraine, killing lots of children. So I'm not sure this is a spike the football moment where you want to be giving yourself awards. And I'll show you her fixer, Mark Beckman, has been making his round saying she deserves awards, give her awards, give her awards, while she's MIA, while she's effectively disappeared from the White House. I mean, where the heck is she at this point? Let me show you what Mark Beckman, her fixer, he's been making his rounds, and he was asked by Newsmax, which is a form of state regime media, where is Melania? Has she disappeared because of the threats against her life and against Barron's life from Iran? Is that why she's nowhere to be found? And Mark Beckman kind of sheepishly goes, no. We've got big announcements we're going to be making, huge announcements we're going to be making. Listen to what he says here. Play this clip.
This heart-stopping threat out of Iran on the First Lady and Barron Trump. A lot of people have speculated this is the reason we've seen a lower profile of the First Lady in the last couple of weeks. Any truth to that theory, Mark?
No, not at all. The First Lady is not deterred because of these threats. Unfortunately, she realizes it's part of the role these days. It's sad. She'd like to see peace in Iran, but the reality is that this is part of the role, and she keeps moving forward. And the evidence is this reunion. And we have actually another big project that you'll see happening towards the end of August, around August 20th or so, which is very exciting too. So she remains committed to her position, and it's not stopping her. These threats are just, everyday work for her, Shannon, unfortunately.
We'll look forward to seeing you back end of August for that next evolution. Mark Beckman, always great to talk to you. Good to see you.
Thank you so much.
Now, this is at the same time Donald Trump has effectively turned the Melania part of the White House, the East Wing, into a military target. Donald Trump's been posting images of where the East Wing used to be, where he now wants his ballroom, which was blocked by the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. He keeps on posting all throughout the night, drone port, and then he has these gigantic drones on top of the roof, turning the East Wing into a military target. I'm not sure it's the best idea to turn the White House into a military facility. There are military facilities that do that. But anyway, that would be Melania's portion of the White House. I want to talk about what Donald Trump said, though, which brings up his dark past. And then I'm going to talk about what Melania's fixer is doing as well. But Donald Trump yesterday said something that reminded us a lot of something he previously said. He said, when you're the president, they let you get away with it. You can remove things from any building. I like the chandelier. I grab the chandelier. I like those columns. I grab those columns. I'm allowed to do it. When you're the president, they let you get away with it. I'm going to grab everything. What does that remind you of? The Access Hollywood tapes, when Donald Trump says, when you're rich, they let you get away with it. You can grab women by their genitals. That's what Donald Trump said. Donald Trump said, when you're rich and famous, they let you do it. Remember how sick and disturbing he was? Let me show you what Donald Trump said here. Then I want to talk about some bad news, not just for Melania, but also for Barron. Then I want to show you how her fixer is handling this. This is what Donald Trump said, though, at the White House yesterday, on Friday, about when you're the president, you grab things. You can grab them however you want. Here, play this clip right here.
What we are. People just didn't know that for a while. I want to thank our great Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, for hosting us. It's a beautiful building, but I look at the president's allowed to remove things from any building. and I'm liking the chandeliers. I like those Corinthian columns, but I don't know, cutting them out would be not good. Those are beautiful columns, but I'm allowed to do it. Every once in a while, I'll come in here and grab a painting and put it at the Oval Office, right? But not too much. But I want to thank Marco.
So now with all of that going on, Melania's fixer, Mark Beckman, he's been making the rounds. He went on state regime media Real America's Voice on the Eric Bolling show, and he talked about how one of the big initiatives that they're pushing for is Melania to receive awards. They want her to get an award because her work is so incredible. And he wants Eric Bolling's help that because she's reunified family, she deserves an award. Here, play this clip.
And I believe that she is evolving not just the office of the First Lady, but the entire East Wing. That's happening now. You see her as, I argue, the most consequential First Lady in history. And you see that work ethic, that high level, that standard of being impactful in the movie and in the docuseries. Now, if you take a second and think about what she's done so far since the 47th administration started, it's remarkable, Eric. I mean, starting with this fifth reunification between Ukrainian and Russian children and their families, I'm sure you would agree, no First Lady in history of the United States has done this level of humanitarian work. In fact, I think that we should, or somebody should be acknowledging there should be some level of recognition for the humanitarian work that she's done to date.
And then he goes on Newsmax, another form of state regime media, Melania's fixer. Again, she's MIA. I mean, she's disappeared. Where the heck is she? And then Mark Beckman is like, she reunited Israeli families from Gaza. I don't know, how about all of the Palestinians who were killed in Gaza as well? How about that? I mean, you're spiking the football and saying, look at all these great things she did. There's a catastrophic war going on right now with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, okay? There's a genocide going on in Gaza, and you're focused on giving her a Gaza award? What's up with all you people needing awards? Why you need awards everywhere? Here, play this clip.
She's also worked in leading to the freedom of Israeli hostages in Gaza.
Incredible.
So we're seeing remarkable level of humanitarian work here for the First Lady. And as I said, she should be recognized formally for this humanitarian work.
It would
Somebody
be nice.
should stand up and talk to it.
It would.
And then Beckman announces that Melania and Bezos will be doing a new docuseries together where you'll get new insight into Melania. For all the Melania fans out there, which is apparently probably just Mark Beckman, you're going to get to see a side of her you've never seen before. I know everybody's really excited about this It's a new docuseries because the documentary, which lost all of that money, which grossed $16.6 million after costing $75 million, was so successful, losing nearly $60 million, that it was like, let's do it again. Let's do it again. Let's give her awards. The hell? Here, play this clip.
Well, here's the thing. So this fall, we are following the film with a docuseries surrounding the First Lady, surrounding Melania Trump. It's a completely different look at her world. It's shot entirely different, and it gives the viewers a little bit of a peek as to what happens right at the beginning of the new 47th presidential administration. You might remember, if you saw the film, we only capture 20 days of the First Lady's life. We open the window a little bit into her private life, her marriage, her family. We open a little deeper into her career as well as her philanthropy. But with the docuseries, it's a little bit different. It's shot different. It's a different story. It's a full new experience for the viewers, and that's going to be coming this fall.
Shine, shopping online. Download now.
Whiteout Survivor. Play free now. I never thought I'd say this, but I've actually become obsessed with doing laundry because of laundry sauce. The very first thing I notice when I pull my clothes out of the dryer is just how incredible they smell. The scent lasts, my clothes feel fresh all day, and it's a huge upgrade from the basic detergent I used to buy. I also love that the pre-measured pods make laundry completely effortless. Just toss one in and you're done. Laundry sauce doesn't just smell amazing, it actually performs. The pods are packed with bioenzymes that tackle stains while helping keep your clothes looking and feeling like new. And if you really want to upgrade your laundry routine, they've also got scent boosters, fabric conditioner, dryer sheets, and fabric refresher spray. It's turned one of my least favorite chores into something I don't mind at all. For a limited time only, our listeners get 20% off your entire order when you use code MIDAS20 at laundrysauce.com. That's 20% off your order at laundrysauce.com with promo code MIDAS20, MEIDAS20. After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. It's time to make Laundry Day the best day of the week.
Now, as I mentioned, some also bad news for Barron. We previously reported how Barron will be the subject of lots of investigations, it appears, when Democrats take control of the House. Democratic Congresswoman Ansari said some of her first subpoenas are going to go to Barron and Eric and Don Jr. and Ivanka and Jared Kushner, but she wants to see Barron be deposed. Because where's Barron? Remember, where's Hunter? I know where Hunter is. We see him all the time. But the big focus is going to be on taking Barron's deposition, subpoenaing Barron, putting him under oath, and asking him about potential crypto ventures, about his relationship with the Tate brothers, because they've said that they're friends with him, or they said that, he was, that they had spoken to him during the 2024 election. And the Tate brothers had a message, I think, for Trump and for Barron. This is what their longtime advisor said. So, the Tates, they were partying with Paolo Zampoli in Florida over the past several weeks before being arrested in D.C. Remember, Paolo Zampoli introduced Melania to Trump at the Kit Kat Club in the late 90s. Zampoli ran a modeling agency for Eastern European women, young Eastern European women and girls. He'd bring them over to the United States. He'd throw parties where the girls and young women would meet the rich men at the Kit Kat Club. Melania worked for Paolo Zampoli, and he introduced them at the Kit Kat Club. Melania described the Kit Kat Club as just one of the most glamorous things there ever was. Anyway, the Tate brothers were partying with Zampoli. Zampoli's an ambassador right now. He's got a top-level position. And that's how Zampoli felt. Zampoli's partying with the Tate brothers. Then the Tate brothers got arrested for, 38 additional sex crime-related charges from the UK. And they got arrested in Florida, rather. The Tate brothers got arrested in Florida. They were partying in D.C., then they went to Florida. They were arrested in Florida, I should say. And so what they're saying right now is the following. Andrew Tate was a material participant in ensuring Trump's victory, and they said basically that it would be unwise for them to be thrown under the bus by Trump and Barron and others right now, because they said we were material to the victory. Just to remind you what Trump said on the Access Hollywood. Compare the clip I showed you before of Trump saying the president is allowed to remove things and do whatever he wants. This was leaked audio from the set of the Access Hollywood back in 2015, 2016. Let's play it.
I moved on her, actually. She was down in Palm Beach. I moved on her, and I failed. I'll admit it.
Whoa.
I did try and her. She was married.
Huge news there.
Nancy, and I moved on her very heavily. In fact, I took her out furniture shopping. She wanted to get some furniture. I said, I'll show you where there's some nice furniture. I took her out furniture. I moved on her like a I couldn't get there. And she was married. And all of a sudden, I see her. She's now got the big phony and everything. She's totally changed her look. I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even know. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the
Just so you remember what Donald Trump said when he was deposed about that Access Hollywood, here's what he said. Let's play it.
And you say, and again, this has become very famous in this video, I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. Just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything. That's what you said, correct?
Well, historically, that's true with stars.
It's true with stars that they can grab women by the pussy?
Well, that's what it's. If you look over the last million years, I guess that's been largely true. Not always, but largely true. Unfortunately or fortunately.
And you consider yourself to be a star?
I think you can say that, yeah.
And while we're at it, here's how Melania, when Melania was asked about Donald Trump saying that he grabs women by their genitals because he's rich, he can sexually assault women, this was Melania's response back then as well. Let's play it.
I was surprised because that is not the man that I know. And as you can see from the tape, the cameras were not on. It was only a mic. And I wonder if they even knew that the mic was on, because they were kind of a boy talk, and he was lead on, like egg on, from the host to say dirty and bad stuff.
You feel the host, Billy Bush, was sort of egging him on?
Yes, yes.
This is Matching Story. So you can see in the beginning they needed help. Oh, it seems the guy is going to be crushed into a sandwich. We need to rescue her quickly.
This game is like this. You need to eliminate obstacles to rescue them.
In order to save them, you need to keep matching blocks and clear the ball pit. This game is completely free. There's over 10,000 different levels. The graphics and animations are so smooth. The best part is there are no ads in this game. Yes, not a single one. So if you want to experience more levels like this, download today.
Matching Story. Play now.
Build and fight.
Is that language you had heard him use before?
No, that's why I was surprised, because I said, like, I don't know that person that would talk that way, and that he would say that kind of a stuff in private. I heard many different stuff, boys talk. The boys, that the way they talk when they grow up and they want to sometimes show each other,
And finally, it should be noted that Donald Trump had always said during the 2015 campaign he was going to hold a press conference about Melania's immigration status. Back in 2015, he said, just in 2 weeks, I'll do the press conference, in 2 weeks. And he never did the press conference. And a lot of people have a lot of questions about Melania's arrival into the United States, and what she was doing in the United States, and how she got a visa, and what did she represent, and whether she was here appropriately or not appropriately, and what she was really doing here, and why she lied, at least publicly, about graduating from a university that she didn't graduate from. Those are all questions that still need to be answered, and those are questions we all still need to answer. She doesn't need more awards or to receive awards. Especially, it's just sick that that's what they want awards right now. There are people dying right now, every day in Gaza, every day in Lebanon, every day in Ukraine, every day in the region in general, getting killed. And you want awards? You want awards? And who are these people being reunified? Do we get to know who they are? Do we see their names? Do we see photos? Are they Russians? Are they Ukrainians? Who are they? And don't you think that it provides a little bit of cover to Putin right now? while he rains down 30 ballistic missiles a day on Ukraine, while your husband, Donald Trump, or whatever you want to call him, tapped Zelensky along and didn't give interceptors or interceptor licenses? Don't you think you may be giving cover to Putin? I'm giving you my opinion. This video is if you don't like my opinion, feel free to disagree. This video is my opinion, protected by the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. You could share different opinions. That's what's great about our Constitution. I have an opinion, you have an opinion. Tell me your opinion. Put it in the comments. Thanks for watching. Oh, did you get a copy of WTF America, the book I put out with my brothers? It comes out October. Pre-order it now. Really excited about it. I will put a link in the description, but the pre-orders are really helpful. Thanks so much for watching.
Before you go, our book, WTF America, is available for pre-order now. It's the story of how we got here and how we fight our way back. To pre-order, scan the QR code or click the link in the description. Let's do this.
10 out of 10 friends say you have to go to that new place, which you have 0 time for. Fortunately, DoorDash knows all your neighborhood hotspots. Shake up your dinner routine. Order with DoorDash.
Senator Blumenthal served in the United States Department of Justice. Senator Schiff served in the United States Department of Justice. The United States Department of Justice is a national treasure, and it is being besmirched and ruined by the Trump-Blanche MAGA operation that now occupies it. And they have no excuses for that. They had no promise to make it better. We showed the way in which judge after judge, Trump appointees, Biden appointees, every kind of appointees have been slamming the Department of Justice for incompetence, for dishonesty, and for misconduct. That kind of stuff is pretty unheard of with the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice has historically enjoyed a presumption of regularity in the things that they say, in their honesty, in their conduct. Not anymore. We are seeing over and over and over again this Department of Justice being called to account in truly unprecedented ways, and Blanche showed complete blindness to that problem today. What's the committee going to do about it? Well, the last time we had a Department of Justice official come through, while a contempt inquiry was pending against him, what did the Republicans on the committee do? They rushed him through before there was a determination about whether that individual had committed contempt of court. We will ultimately find out, but this should not be a committee that turns a blind eye for disciplinary review. What is the Republican majority going to do about that? Are they going to pull another Bovee and cram him through while these inquiries are pending before we know whether he committed a fraud upon the court? From what the judge said, it sure looks like he did. So this is not a vain or trivial accusation. This is an accusation that goes straight to the heart of the integrity of the Department of Justice under this administration and goes straight to the heart of the integrity of this individual. And they're failing both tests right now. Thank you, Dick.
Thank you, Ranking Member Durbin, and thank you, everybody, for covering this important hearing. Every nominee that I have reviewed in the time that I've served for 16 years on this committee, I ask the same basic 3 questions. Do they have the qualifications? Do they have the policy? And do they have the independence to serve our nation as Attorney General? He is qualified, Todd Blanche, as someone who has been a prosecutor. But given his legal experience, he should have known better than to be willing to tolerate or support the weaponization of the department, using it as a tool not to follow the facts and the law to pursue justice, but to carry out a retribution agenda by President Trump. a core question for me in terms of policies, will he uphold equal justice under law? Or
yeah, you know they got bot service on this joint, man. What's good with y'all though? I was working and shit, so I couldn't really chop it up with y'all. My bad on that, but you know we still gotta get the word out there. I'm ready to double back and change this video. Let me see what we got. Let me get up to some. Here we go.
You need to be having better sex. Blue Chew Gold. Blue Chew Gold. Blue Chew Gold.
Double tap that screen, smash that like button. Y'all know what time it is. Being physically ready is useless if your head is not in the game. If you don't know, Blue Chew Gold is not just some.
We are seeing a full-fledged military resistance against Trump and Hegseth. Top generals and admirals are pushing back right now. You have Hegseth firing like all of these top-level people because he's so utterly pathetic. I've been reporting earlier this week about all of the military leaks at the highest level to all of these major media outlets, top generals, top admirals, other top military officials leaking how the U.S. has run out of Patriot interceptors, THAAD interceptors, SM-2, SM-3, SM-6 anti-ballistics from the Navy destroyers, ATACMS, and so much other military equipment. We now also learn that Saudi Arabia ran through close to 90% of its interceptors. And here is what has happened in a very short period of time. We learned on Friday, Lieutenant General Charles Costanza, commander of the Army's 5th Corps, has just been terminated early. That's a key command post for U.S. Europe Command. You previously have learned from watching the Midas Touch Network or elsewhere, General Randy George, 4-star, former Army Chief of Staff, he was let go and forced out by Hegseth. David M. Hodney, former Army Ranger who led the Army's Transformation and Training Command, forced out. You had Major General William Green Jr., Chief of the Army's Chaplain Corps. He was pushed out, of course, in the past 2 to 3 months as well. General Christopher T. Donahue, he was forced out by Hegseth as well, and he was the commander of U.S. Army Europe and Africa. So you had Costanza, one of the commanders in Europe, Army's 5th Corps, and you had General Christopher T. Donahue, commander of U.S. Army Europe and Africa, forced out. These are some of the top people too, some of the most respected people who would not commit war crimes, people who would not go along with the buffoonery of Hegseth. I mean, these are people who must be beside themselves at what they are seeing with the Trump regime. And one of the things we're learning as well is it seems that these people absolutely despise Brad Cooper, or a lot of them do. The guy who's now running CENTCOM, Admiral Brad Cooper, you know, that guy who's basically turned CENTCOM into a Trump troll account. He had that awful appearance before Congress where we had numerous members of Congress who served our country bravely cross-examining him a few months back, and Cooper was like, no, we're winning, we control the Strait of Hormuz. It was so damn embarrassing. Some of the leaks that are coming out right now is that really the only person who's still telling Donald, we still have a shot at beating Iran if we just escalate a little more and do an air war, Donald, is that Admiral Brad Cooper, is CENTCOM. Let's take a look at what's happened. You also have General Dan Kane, who's the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, who, if you been studying what's going on behind the scenes, this guy's not qualified for this position. Now, you know, he was a 3-star general. Let's be clear. I mean, that's very impressive, you know, but he's not a 4-star. and he had to get a waiver to become the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Remember, the Trump regime fired CQ Brown Jr., who was a 4-star, very qualified. He was actually appointed by Trump to a top-level position during Trump's first administration. Then Biden elevated him one more time to become chairman of the Joint Chiefs. But Pete Hegseth doesn't want black people, minorities, or women in leadership positions in the military. And because Trump and Hegseth are racist, and they have a racist regime, they pushed out top talent. They brought in a white guy, Dan Raisin Kane, because they like the name Raisin, who had to get a waiver because he was not qualified for the position. I mean, to be fair, of a lot of people, I mean, he has been raising the issue that the United States is out of interceptors and that it would be a bad decision. He's been the voice against CENTCOM close to Trump, saying, do not escalate, because if you escalate, we're out of interceptors and we're out of weapons at this point. But also, you're chairman of the Joint Chiefs. The buck kind of stops with you. I mean, also the head of CENTCOM and the other positions, but like, you should have been doing, I don't know, either resign, or you should be doing a lot more than allowing our weapons to be depleted in this way. I mean, it's like tapping out in the first quarter of a 4-quarter basketball game. It's kind of like basic war 101. I mean, what the heck is even going on? Let me be very clear. We should never have been involved in this catastrophic war. I think Trump is a war criminal. I think Netanyahu is a war criminal. So please don't misconstrue my criticism of the military tactics as a promotion of the war. Far from it. I just want to point out that these people are not just malicious and evil in the Trump regime. They are incompetent, and our military generals, who many of them are very courageous, a lot of them, and brave, and people who deserve our support, who deserve our appreciation, they were not listening.